3 p.m.
Okay, folks, we're going to start letting the audience in.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See those people dressed in black. They come a long way and they ain't turning back. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See those people dressed in red. They look like the people that Moses led. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See those people dressed in white. They look like the children of the Israelites. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Ashkan, Nikan, Ohlone. Tisho quequetzaticatej, Iwan, Nemitoch, Ipan, Huehui Tlali, Itech, Huichin, Altepetl, Chochenio, Ohlone. Tequispatij, Impololistli, Itech, Altepej, Iwan, Titonahuac, Ilucha, Ipampa, Itlachtolo, dignidad, Tlali, Iguan, libertad, Ijkon, Ometeot. Here, now, in Ohlone, we find ourselves standing on an occupied land of the Uchin people, Chechenio, Ohlone. We don't forget the devastation of the land and the members of the Ohlone people, and we join their struggle for their history, dignity, land, and freedom. So be it. Ometeotl. Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Ome Masato. On behalf of NACA Dance Theater and Ohlone College, we welcome you to the 5th Annual Social Justice, Inclusion, and Equity Symposium. But before we start, we would like to do some logistics. If you need sign language interpretation, please pin the interpreters so that they can magnify, you can see them clearly. But also if you have any comments or questions for our panelists, please do so by our Facebook platforms, NACA Dance Theater and Ohlone College, or also if you are in the Zoom meeting, also you can, I think in the bottom of the screen, you will see the Q&A. I think, I'm sorry if we don't, but okay, anyway. Anyway, so I think those are the logistics. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome the director of the Ohlone College Diversity Program at Ohlone College. She has doing amazing work bringing artists and social activists together. Without her, we couldn't be here. So please welcome Teresa Maximo, and she will talk a little bit more about the symposium. Teresa Maximo, welcome.
Teresa, you are muted.
Of course. Hi, everyone. I needed to be dramatic, right? You have to get your attention of your audience. Welcome to the Social Justice Equity Symposium. I appreciate everyone being here. This is a symposium that we've had for 5 years now. And the goal of the symposium is to illuminate and empower individuals like us to work to end social and systematic injustices that impact communities at the margin. And overall, what I hope we all get out of this is that we critically think, right, raise awareness about issues that are happening in our local community, and hopefully motivate us to action to create social change. And this year's theme is radical resistance and radical imagination. I think that every human on this panel, especially the panelists, embodies radical resistance and radical imagination through their artistry, through their community work, through their imagination and their passion. And it reminds me of this quote by Harriet Tubman. And she once said, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer." Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion for reaching the stars to change the world. And I feel like these panelists that we have today are part of that change, and we all can be part of that change too. And so let's move on to our panel discussion today, which is called Beloved and Insistence, and a discussion with modern day abolitionist here in our community. And I'm going to hand it over to one of the queens on this panel, Regina Evans, to kind of tell you all about herself and introduce the rest of the panelists and just start the discussion. Regina, you're on.
Hi, Teresa. You know, Mama Harriet would also threaten to shoot you too.
Why?
She didn't take any prisoners. She would just be like, listen, if you don't want to, you need to get on this train.
Yeah.
You know, she like, I mean, she did like the both things, the soft, lovey-dovey thing, but she was also like, I'm about to shoot your ass
Oh no, she is
if you don't come.
hardcore, but I feel
Yeah,
like
and the other part too. Yeah,
imagine
she
you
was
all,
full, a full embodied abolitionist.
yes, but you embody these things: passion, strength, patience. Like, you can't do this stuff without that, right?
No,
It takes a
especially
long
not without,
time.
not without patience. That's
Mhm.
the first thing. You must have patience. Hi everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Regina Evans. I am an artist and an abolitionist. I guess some people say artivist. I have been working as an abolitionist in Oakland specifically since 2007. My path to being an abolitionist, both an abolitionist and an artist, you know how like there are roadmaps? I really did not have a roadmap. I just kind of basically did one step at a time. I did a lot of, it was almost like feeling my way in the dark and going, oh, yeah, no, okay, yeah, here. That's basically how I got to do all the things that I do now. Most of my work stems from my artistic work. I work as a costumer. I tell stories, I tell history through my costuming. I look at the commodification of the Black female womb a lot through my costuming because I feel like we're losing the fight with and fighting human trafficking, partially because we don't talk about the root of it. And I also do installation art, which is how Beloved and Insistence happen, where we just go out and we build altars on a city street in an area that we call the Track, which is a high density area of child sex trafficking. And I'm also a playwright and a performer. And I wanted to talk a little bit about collaboration. There are 3 people on the panel who are amazing. Amba Johnson, who is one of my greatest mentors and sister friends, who is the ED for Dreamcatchers here in Oakland, and she'll tell you about that. And also Benita Hopkins, one of my deepest mentors, who's also an artist and many, many things, who is the co-chair of the San Francisco Collaborative Against Human Trafficking. And Sarai Mazariegos, who actually is the first person that I met as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with trafficking. I actually ran into Sarai. She was the, I think the youth coordinator at the time for Dreamcatchers. But Sarai is also a stalwart in Oakland. She and Nola Brantley, and I think a couple other people, started an organization called Missy, and Missy was the very first organization on the ground in Oakland doing the work. So everybody who's doing work in Oakland stands on Sarai's shoulders. We are all older than she is. Most of us are older than what she is, and now she runs Shade, which is a survivor advocacy organization. It's all survivor led and all survivor run. And so what I do, like in terms of collaboration, is it's almost kind of like a waterfall to me. Is I try to build relationships, and relationships are not easy. But they are also very beautiful. There's a love foundation in relationships and in relationship building. And I think that with social justice work, that's the magic, because this work is hard. And without something that's a glue, everything falls apart. Everything falls apart. My mom brought me up to say this. There are some people that you will not want to work with, but you must find a way to respect them. Something about them that you respect. because that's the way that you can continue to do the work. And that respect is all based in love and based in relationship. And, you know, there's also a saying that says, we all we got. And this fight is super, super hard in every single way. You're talking about emotionally, spiritually, physically. It's not a fight where you are, okay, I'm gonna go to a dinner and donate $50 and then the thing is gonna go away. This beast's been in our country forever, and in fact, our world. And so the roots are very deep. And so that means the branches have to be strong, that the leaves have to be strong, that the tree has to be watered, and we water each other. And, you know, give wisdom to each other. That's how the tree stays strong. And, you know, there's a lot in this fight that is just an emotional beast. And if you're thinking about a young child being trafficked just on the daily, and people on the front line like Amba, Sarai, and Benita, like what might they go through on the daily to just on their day-to-day to be able to get through on their day-to-day so that they can actually continue the fight. And so there has to be some kind of connection between the branches. You know, not all branches are connected, but right directly to each other, but they're connected to another branch. All of that has to exist in order for the fight to continue. And so that's how I built community, or tried to build community, so that I could do the work that I do, and then trying to figure out where is my place in this. And my place landed in art very strongly, which I actually didn't even know I was an artist, but so trying to find out my mission led me to one of my greatest passions. And so that's a little bit about me. And I'm going to, Benita,
Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you can talk a little bit about what you do. And this woman is phenomenal. She's also a classically trained, is it viola or violin? Viola player and a singer, plus all the other stuff that she does. But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you and you talk about what it is that you do. Thank you.
You know, you are so funny, Regina. You are not knowing that you were an artist. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That took me back to when we first met, and I was floored by you and your performance. You know, but I understand. I have been raised with the arts all my life, from a long line of musicians in my family. And my first solo was my graduation from kindergarten. Over the Rainbow was the solo. And so I've always been in those artist moments. As you said, I do play viola. I'm the principal violist in the symphony here in the South Bay. And that's my self-care. You know, you also mentioned, what do we do for ourselves for sanity's sake, for that vicarious trauma and all of that? I turn to the arts, but I too never considered myself an artist or a creative person even. Though I wanted to major in architecture, I majored in engineering. I wanted to be the one in the family to break the line in going into education and that type of thing. And where am I? And where did I land in later life, but in education, in the arts, for that reason. For the last 30 years, I've taught students music. and 15 of those last 30, I was a teacher here in the Bay Area, a music teacher here in the Bay Area at a school in the South Bay. And it changed my life, really. I realized how I could really kind of relax a little and rely more on my natural ability. And that being teaching and that being music in particular. And here of late, particularly during this time of COVID, I called a time of pause, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of digging deep to see what my purpose out of the pause was going to be. And out of that really leaning in, I realized that now this is the time. This is the time to step out on that dream that I've had of positive youth development and using the arts as a method of doing that. So I'm launching First Fruits Arts Project, which empowers the underserved through the arts, and just pulling from all the things I've learned over the years to do this work. The last 13 years or so was when I was really introduced to this trafficking pandemic that not only here in our area and in the US, but globally in the world. And I was introduced to it globally, actually. And there in India, finding out that we have a problem, big problem, right here in our own backyard. I was floored, but knew that I needed to do something, all that I could, to help in the issue. So prevention education has been where my sphere of influence and my where I have been most participatory. Started with Not for Sale, and from Not for Sale, doing things there on an international level and here locally. Moving on to Love Never Fails, as you know, and really digging into the education, prevention education space here around the Bay Area. And I am the co-chair of the San Francisco Collaborative that allows me to collaborate, as you mentioned, with so many people who are vested in this area. And my last stint with Generations United, who the population that we serve there is the immigrant population. And we know that that is a population that's very vulnerable to trafficking. So I'm in it to win it. It's gonna be a fight, and it's a lifelong fight, this fight of trafficking. But most recently here, I believe that the arts can be used as a means to reach the population in a very deep but viable way. And I use the creation of First Fruits Arts Project came out of the example of a fruit being birthed, being born. As we know, in order for fruit to grow, it starts from a seed, right? A seed that's planted, and that seed must be planted deep into some rich soil. And as it's continually fed, the seed will get so full that it will begin to die and break apart. And as it sprouts, a root from the seed will die, and a root will begin to dig even deeper. When all the factors are right, the sun, the water, the soil, and the temperature, the first sprout will appear. And it begins to look for oxygen and other nutrients to help it be sustainable. And that is the process and purpose of First Fruits Arts Project. We want to provide the oxygen, the nutrients, to help this population be sustainable. We like to say restore identity, and we're concerned about the well-being of the participants. And the participants can be young or old, not just students, children, but all ages. We like to focus, it's a trauma focused on 3 I's, I like to call them. The individual, their interpersonal relationships, and the institutional. And that's where we get into a lot of the justice work with the institutional relationships. We believe in building proximity. You spoke of collaborating with other organizations and others, and building proximity with the participants is key. Because if you don't have that relationship, the work is even harder, because it's harder to be let in to what might be a really safe space or might be a very sore space. So learning about participants' cultures, their developing relationships with them, finding out their aspirations, whether the arts or otherwise. Their aspirations don't necessarily have to be arts related, but allowing them a vehicle to express themselves and express themselves through whatever medium. So we're looking at not only music, but art, spoken word, writing, speaking, poetry, education. The list can go on, but from the seed to the root to the fruit is what we're about.
So how, talk to me about the institutional part
Okay.
of your program.
Well,
What does that mean?
as you know, many in our population are vulnerable to poverty, to racism, to so many other institutions, right? So we want to come alongside and advocate in where those disparities are, whatever their particular disparity is.
Okay. And for the actual artistic program, can you walk me through, like, what does that look like? What does
Well,
it look like?
it
sounds beautiful.
We're starting with daily workshops, right?
Okay.
Where we would start in the morning and in the afternoon. In the morning, we would begin with just expressing some art, whether it's myself or I bring someone in or whatever. And we assess where they are via an assessment tool, what they may feel their artist capability is, whether they do or whether they don't. But try to use games and trauma, how do I put it? Trauma informed ways to get to really try to tap into one of the roots of where they are and allow them to journal it or sing it or beat it out on a drum, whatever. And by afternoon, really get the one-on-one mentorship time, perfecting that, whatever it is that they've come up with. And at the end of the day, do a recital to showcase what they have come up with.
Beautiful.
During the course of that day.
And this is like just a range of ages.
Yes.
Of for survivors. That's really good.
Yes. And survivors as well as those most vulnerable. They don't necessarily have to be a survivor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, because it all is at a crossroads of one another. So it's almost like a preventative thing as well. So which is really good. So still abolitionist work. And so the abolitionist work is just huge. You know, it's not just, you know, just focused just on survivors. It's also too like mentoring, going into the schools, mentoring, you know, teaching, self-awareness, you know, so people won't fall into the cracks, you know, and so they're able to kind of see what's going on. It's a protective type of thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's protection. That sounds exactly like, that sounds like you. That sounds like the mentor I know.
And it's
That's
so
a perfect program for you.
And it's so, I wish more and more people realize that anybody can do that, right? Right in their own sphere of using what they have. We all have something, whether it's artsy or not, you know, whether you know how to run a business, or you are a secretary or nurse or whatever that something is that we all do, can lend to the population and really help mentor.
And you just have that naturally, because I remember when I first met you, and you know, I still suffer from, oh my God, I'm a failure kind of thing. But like when I finished doing the play, I was like, oh shit, that was like horrible. And you came up to me and you said, you were so good. And I was like, who is she talking to? But it went straight to, it was such an arrow of inspiration for me. And I carried it with me until, and you said, I'm gonna see you again. And we saw each other 2 years later. But I carried those words with me for 2 years. It was one of the things that kept me going. And so this is good. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing this. Thank you, Benita.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey. Where's Amba? Who's next? Who should I talk to next? Amba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I wanted to do a little bit of logistics. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Regina, to interrupt, but just I wanted to say that some of the students are doing comments in the chat, which we also encourage. So please do so if you have any questions, or if you have any comments. We will try to answer the questions that are in the chat, as well as the Facebook platform.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I had one from Jacqueline, and she responded back. So yay, I'm glad that was clear, Jacqueline. And if you have any other questions about, like, because I use a lot of nature references, Jacqueline. So if you have any other questions about it, definitely ask. Amba Johnson, Executive Director of Dreamcatchers, and a gatherer. Amba is a gatherer of wisdom, of people, and a placemaker. She's a placemaker for a lot of us. So one of the mamas of the movement. Mamas like Dreamcatchers and what it is that you do. You're muted.
Yeah. Hi. So I think I'm going to talk about Dreamcatcher, and then I'm going to talk about you, Miss Regina. So I've been involved in trafficking since 2000, when there were no acronyms and no analysis. All of that hadn't happened yet. At the time I first became aware, I was a child welfare worker, and I began to realize that the girls on my caseload were being trafficked. I knew from my years in sex work that was exactly what was happening. And I started talking about it and was connected with Sarai and Nola at the time, and later worked as a board member on Missy, and eventually came to Dreamcatcher. And so at this point, Dreamcatcher now has, beside our all gendered shelter for homeless youth that has always served trafficked youth, we have added a gender specific program for female identified youth who are either at acute risk or are involved or are exiting trafficking. And I make all those, I mention that entire spectrum because it's all the same point in time, in that 1 minute changes it from one to the next to the next. So this is work that we've been doing a long time, and this is work that my staff is deeply trained in with a lot of the great experts. But we provide case management, mental health services, clothing, food, a safe bed, a nurturing environment, mental health, legal. So we offer pretty much a complete embrace of services. And Nika's Place, which is that shelter, came into existence out of the recognition that there were services being made available for trafficked youth that were trying to exit, or at least considering how to get out, but they didn't have a bed. So they were often participating in services and still involved with their trafficker because it was the only place to survive. It was the only place to sleep at night. So my predecessor was the drive behind Nika's Place so that there could be a first bed for the first night. And currently we are doing the work we do on site. We've added street outreach that actually flowed out of Regina's work. And we are also working at the police station whenever there's a sweep so that we can provide wrap-in services for any minors that are there. Covenant House, who is our partner and family, is also developing a much more in-depth program for response for 18 to 24-year-old young women exiting or involved from the street, including safe first night beds, no ask, just open arms, which I also think is being driven even more since they became involved with what Regina was doing on the street. So I'm very grateful for that. I think that though I really want to say, I want to say all the things Regina won't say for herself, for sure. One of which was that from the very beginning, I think from the very first time I met Regina, that she probably was one of my elements of self-care because she was so pure in her commitment. I mean, I'm a social worker, I'm social work trained, I got a master's in social work, I'm inside this every single paradigm. And Regina was outside every single paradigm. And I think that that's a very important element as we look at how the work changes and how the work evolves. And what I mean by that is that she wasn't in any stricture or structure. She hadn't been drilled in how you get there. And the result of that was that she got there straight from her heart. And that walk meant that the paradigm of response to young people on the street that were being exploited shifted. And it shifted all along, but the explosion of what she was the seed of really happened this year when she started Beloved on the Street. And the difference in the paradigm is that historically and really all street outreach and all services, whether conscious or unconscious, had a certain element of exchange and requirement that was completely eliminated in Regina's work. And I think it was a critical elimination when you are trying to connect and uplift people that are involved in exploitation. The very first thing you need to do is stop being part of the transactional relationships in their life. And that sounds easy, and it's not easy if you work in nonprofit. But as an artist, I think the purity of art brought that new piece forward, and I watched it grow and evolve and create profound transformation. I think that I always knew that art for our youth was kind of an access to self. But I think that when Regina's work really started to explode, and I really spent a lot of time being in it, watching it, loving it, honoring it, and asking myself what it was, I realized that it was using art as a path to our shared soul. And that's the calling in. And that's very different from an exchange. That is that is leading to truth. That is just stating truth at a great level, that through this art that's out there, through the expression that goes on during the beloved events, art is drawing everyone that's touched into the shared soul of humanity. And that is the healing. That is the transformation. Nobody has to go anywhere or do anything for that to occur within them. And I think that that is the great power that she has brought to the work. And I think that it has to inform how we understand our work going forward. It has to be the question that we interrogate ourselves by as we evaluate how we're doing our work, how we're meeting the people that we're wanting to serve, that we're wanting to fight for, that we're wanting to stand beside. We have to interrogate ourselves from that level of purity, from that level of truth, to pull all of the work to its highest level. And I think that's the important part of today. That's the important part of this entire conference, is how do we interrogate ourselves at that level of truth? And I think one of the ways that we do that very much has to be by being sure that the people that are involved are not just the people that are trained to be involved, the people that are informed to be involved, but the community heart, because within that community heart will come other lenses that will transform us, it will transform our work, and by doing so, it will transform our understanding of how to heal our community and the people that are being impacted in it in ways that we don't always understand. Sometimes we may never understand, but what I do understand is when you walk in the street, when the beloved is occurring, there is no question that it is the answer, it is the antidote to the suffering. And so I think that for us at Dreamcatcher, and we all here feel that way, the greatest honor this year has been to allow us to experience and allow our work to be influenced and continually transformed by being part of Regina's efforts.
Thank you, Amba. I was intrigued by the bags that you guys made. How did that happen? You guys made little medicine bags.
Yes.
Can you talk?
Yeah, my case manager came to me, Brittany, who is amazing, Flintroy, and she's also going out. First of all, my staff is like, I don't even know, I'm so lucky. They're amazing. But Brittany said, don't certain oils and scents and herbs have certain meanings, certain energies? And then if they do, why don't we make things that we can leave on the street for the beloved, that we can embed in the altars, that the girls that are here already can make as a gift for the other girls that are out on the street. And the staff participated. And so we made oils, we made herbal bags that had amazing scents in them that are to, evoke peace, evoke healing. And they're all very exquisite, I think, also. But the participation that day, or the days leading up to that, of creating those here on our site was an extraordinary experience. And it was certainly bringing that value of the beloved right into the facility and into the efforts, because they were just making these extraordinary oils, roll-on oils, and bags and potpourri bags, as well as goodies, just straight because they could give it to the altars and to the street for the day.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Can you tell us something about like the services that are offered at Dreamcatcher Youth Services? So, because it is people need to know that you're the only entity right now, I think, in
we're the
Oakland
only shelter in 2 counties. We take people, we accept youth between 13 and 17 from anywhere in the world, and we get them from everywhere in the world. But we are also the only shelter for 13 to 17-year-olds in 2 counties, Alameda County and Contra Costa County. And it's very telling to me that when Contra Costa County lost their youth shelter, their trafficking problem blew up. Because it is a fact that a youth that gets to a bed is a youth that doesn't get a absorbed by an exploiter. So we have 20 beds altogether. Our main shelter is all gender, non-gendered shelter, plus our additional shelter for female identified youth. We also have a drop-in center that's open from 12 to 7, and any youth between 13 and 17 can come. And that often is the first door that girls that are considering exiting the street come through to kind of assess us and see who we are. We're very relational. It's the only thing that really works. But we also have a full, completely free adolescent medical clinic. We provide lunch, dinner, breakfast. We provide lunch and dinner in the drop-in center. Our lawyer is always available for any youth that needs any help with anything legal. Our therapist is always on site and available. Our case managers really, really know how to work with trafficked girls. She's amazing at it, but all the staff is equally trained. So yeah, that's kind of what clothing, transportation, connection to other agencies, making sure that after they've left us and gone to a safe bed, that there are other agencies they're connected with, there's other support systems that are going to stay with them even beyond that, and they can continue to come back and be part of our family, always.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And Sarai, are you here? Where's Sarai? Sarai.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, everybody. I'm going to introduce her again because she deserves that. This is Sarai Mazariegos, who is the co-founder of Missy and the founder of Shade. Sarai has trained so many young and older survivors, has literally carved out pathways for survivors, for healing, for education, for housing, just the whole thing. Shade is a first responder. And I mean, she does bedside advocacy, like the whole thing, housing, feeding people, and what you are seeing is really legend when you look at Sarai, and very straightforward, because a lot of fire and a lot of love. She's like fire, love fire. And so I just wanted you to talk about what it is that you do. You do so much, so I don't know how I'm going to contain it in like 10 minutes, but whatever it is that you want to talk about with Shade or Missy or whatever, or something that you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah. So again, Sarai Smith Mazariegos. Yes, I've wore many hats here in Alameda County to change the blueprint of how we disrupt this issue, but also how we serve and empower survivors. So that's really my lens, is really around supporting and empowering survivors. And we've done this when we created Missy, done this just throughout all of my work since 2000 as well. And so what I want to actually talk to you guys about now, I do encourage you to go to Missy, www.miss, that's 3 S's, EY.org, and also check out Missy, because again, this is where survivors that are 24 and under is going to get that case management services here in Alameda County. So what I want to do, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about Shade, which is my new baby. Missy was my old baby. This is my new baby. I've always been about survivor leadership, and Shade was created through my vision around survivor leadership. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So here, SHADE stands for Survivors Healing, Advising, and Dedicated to Empowerment. So again, this is SHADE's foundation. We're about healing, we're about advising, making sure that people really understand what survivors need and being a part of creating those different avenues of supporting survivors. We're also dedicated to empowerment. Again, that is our foundation, survivor leadership and empowerment. So again, we're 100% survivor-led, survivor-based. That means all of our staff, all of our member consultants are survivors of sexual exploitation, human trafficking, and domestic violence. So again, I want us to understand, by us being public about being survivors, this also shows other survivors that recovery is possible, because unfortunately, when you're being trafficked or exploited, you feel like this is the world you live in, this is the end of it, there is nothing beyond trafficking, exploitation. You feel as if you're going to continue to be brutalized every single day, be raped every single day. And so we're making sure that other survivors, unfortunately, that are coming behind us know that recovery and healing is possible. All right. So of course, we know trafficking is one of the most dire social injustice of our time, right? And it is one of the fastest growing industries in the world today, unfortunately. And it is so vital that we uplift and encourage and inspire survivors, right? Because again, we can disrupt this and we have the power to disrupt this. We cannot effectively disrupt human trafficking without seeking survivors' assistance and lead in all of our efforts. And so within SHADE, we're putting the power back into the survivors' hands, making sure that everyone have the capacity and the skills to be who they want to be. So within our organization, we do that by providing support groups, by doing street outreach, by doing trainings to professionals, but also trainings around skill building within SHADE. And we also do our bedside advocacy with the hospitals and clinics, and also court advocacy with the DA's office and other legal aid organizations such as Justice at Last, Barrier Legal Aid. So we support them as well. We provide economic leadership opportunities. Again, not only do we have staff, but we also have member consultants that do a lot of our training and program development with other local organizations. We are all about prevention and social justice workshops. And of course, we have our survivor leadership course, which is where we're also empowering other survivors. So we do a variety of stuff. And so I want to also, again, encourage you to please check out our website. You can get to know us better. And again, for us to just really understand that any blueprint for a sustainable fight against an injustice resides within those who have had the misfortune, unfortunately, of being smeared by that injustice. So again, we as survivors have the power to disrupt and end human trafficking. But within this movement, we need allies to move aside to allow us to do what we have the ability to do and not second guess us, which is another issue, unfortunately, in this human trafficking movement. And I tend to use every platform to address it, because if not, then it hinders the work that we need to do. And Regina, I could talk all day about that, but I'm going to end it here.
Okay, so there a couple of people are asking in the chat, Sarai, how to help. And so I suggested to them to first get training. I suggested to send them to NOLA's site, but I also said that you also do training. And so can you talk about like your trainings and also what you suggest for how people can get activated in the fight?
Yeah, so one thing I do highly encourage anyone who wants to volunteer, or do anything to support the fight of disrupting human trafficking is get training. And I'm not talking about a 2-hour training on the internet. I am really talking about 40 hours of training. Like, I'm like, no kidding. Like in 2000, we had tons of training happening. And I would say within the last 5 years, people come in this movement and they have very little training. They don't even have 8 hours of training. And it's just not effective when you're working with survivors. For one, you have to be trauma informed. You have to be survivor centered. For when you have to understand the trauma, that's the key, is that you have to understand the trauma and just understand what that trauma looks like when you're working with someone. So this is why I say, like, more than 8 hours of training, you need that 40 hours. And Nola, oh my goodness, that's my love. She has so many trainings for like CSEC 101, 102. There's so many trainings that she offers that will really give you knowledge and insight on how to really interact and engage with survivors. One thing that we encourage after you've done NOLA's 101 and 102, we do encourage folks to reach out to us, because we actually do a thorough training around trauma-informed care services when it comes to human trafficking, right? And we also do it how to really have that effective engagement and really support someone through those different stages of victim to survivor to leader, right? And again, this is special type of programming and special knowledge and insight that you have to really be effective in what you're trying to do. Like, we're not just coming here trying to do the basic. We are really trying to make sure that survivors thrive, right? And recover and move forward. So training is key. And I say this everywhere I go. You can't do something without training. I even say, even for survivors, just because we have lived this life doesn't mean that we know everything. There's also training that we need as well. So even like within Shade, for anyone that is hired to run or work within any of our programs, there is human trafficking certification, there is sexual assault certification, there is DV certification. That is a must. There is no exception, because again, these are all tools to really help you to be successful at what you're trying to do with survivors. So that's what I would say for one around training. I would also say really look at the organizations that you're trying to support. I would say really look at their history and track record and what they're really doing, because every organization should have some type of programming in place to empower. That means get survivors from one step to the next, right? No survivor should be codependent on any organization, right? We are moving into self-sufficiency, dependency, which means that survivor is thriving. So I think I typically would always just say, look at the track record, look at what they're doing, make sure they have, for one, they got survivor that are staffed on their, within their organization. Some will be private and some will be public. But I think it's still important to know that they're empowering because they're also hiring survivors. And survivors are not just in entry level, but they're also in management positions. Did I miss anything, Regina? Because I can just keep going. I was trying to remember everything.
I had one more question. Are you doing outreach training? Are you doing an outreach? And is that information, how can people, like, if they want to, I think there's a lot of students on this call, so if they are interested in doing outreach, like how, where's that training information, or can they contact you?
So they can contact us if they want a training, a street outreach training. That's totally fine. But one thing that I encourage anyone that is new to this movement is that you team up with the organization that is already doing street outreach, right? You get trained, you team up with the organization that's already doing street outreach, and you do it through them versus on your own. Yes. The reason I say that is because you can get trained, you can get street outreach training, that doesn't mean that you know everything, right?
Right.
And the streets are unsafe. You know, there's a lot of different things that you have to understand about the culture and the language and the codes on the street. That's not going to just come
Yeah.
overnight by you receiving a training, right? This is something that's you're going to start to understand your training as you're out there. But again, you want to be out there with folks that are seasoned first. And then once you really gain the knowledge and understanding of really the streets, because that's really what it is, then I would say you can venture off and create something of your own. But we're talking about the track, the blade, where pimps are right there. They will engage with you. You know, it's just really a level of making sure everyone is safe, and that everyone just really knows what they're doing out there and they're not making themselves unsafe or the girls unsafe.
Yes. Sarai, how long have you been doing this work?
Since 2000, so way too long, but
20.
it's my love.
20 years. And
Is it 20 years?
yeah, this 2020, just 20 years. I feel like is there something else you want to say? I don't know. I feel like there is. I just don't know what it is.
I think there's so much I could say. And I think can I move it a little bit away from survivor leadership real quickly?
Yeah. Because I feel like there's something you need to say, but I don't know what it is. So.
And I think what it is that I want to say is we have a huge issue happening here, culturally within the human trafficking movement. And I'm not sure if folks are really following this issue of human trafficking, just not in California, but just all over the US. And I think it's really important for us to understand when we're out here saying that we want to end sexual violence against women and girls, right? That we have to really understand where human trafficking comes from, right? So now we've talked about generational trauma, right? Slavery, right? But I want us to look at something else, such as the sex industry. I think this is an area that we have to really start to look at and really understand how the sex industry has influenced and also been a creator of human trafficking, right? And in order for us to disrupt human trafficking, we have to, of course, we never want to criminalize any survivor, regardless, but we have to understand the demand aspect of this issue, right? And really understand that buyers and traffickers, brothel owners, CEO managers have to be held accountable for their part in trafficking, for their part in creating this, right? And we can't do that unless we start to understand the victimization part of all of this, right? We also have to understand how it's not okay for women to be bought, how it's not okay for us to be objectified for a man's need. I think once we truly start to understand this, then we could really do some prevention with our young girls, with our young women, when society beats into them that they should be sexualized, that they should dress to be provocative, right? These are questions, these are deep-rooted conversations we're not having. But number one is that when it comes to Black and brown women and girls, our consent looks completely different from a white woman's consent. And these are the conversations that we have to start having and not be afraid to have, because these are not the conversations we're having in our programs where we're working with potential victims of human trafficking or survivors of human trafficking. We're not having those real, like Regina says, those rooted conversations to take us to the root of this issue, right? And until we start to have those conversations, we are still going to be lost in this area when we say we want to end sexual violence against women and girls, but yet pro sex work is okay. It doesn't make sense. We cannot sit there and say yes to this and no to this. We have to realistically understand what we need to eliminate in order to make sure that women and girls are safe. And so there's a variety of conversations we need to have that we're not having. And so I think that's what I really want to say to everyone, is that we have to start having these uncomfortable conversations and not sugarcoat them, because I guarantee you, we don't need to sugarcoat it for any of the girls that we work with.
Yes. Thank you, Sarai. I could feel you wanted to say something, so I just wasn't sure. I do have those conversations and been having the conversations.
Yes, you have.
Since I've started, especially I just do them through theater, because I do them through costuming. All my costuming, all my theater pieces are a history lesson, because I feel like our lens as Black women, Black and brown women, people need to know their history. People need to know, like I say, the commodification of the Black female womb, that goes throughout all of my work. It was one of the reasons why I started Beloved, because what happens with the commodification, we're not nourished. Joy is lacking. We're not fed. These are historical things that have happened down the line. So when I started Beloved and Insistence, it was drenched in all of that. I want to be a nourisher. I want to be a nourisher because historically we've been stripped of our nourishment and what should have nourished us. And I just do it differently. Sarai and I have had these conversations. I'm like, this is how I'm going to do it. This is my offering. My offering is from a historical lens. And because I think when people have access to the truth of who they are, who their ancestors have been, it makes you stronger. And so I just do it through the arts and through things like Beloved. Like Beloved has blacky, black, black, black all over it. Like the altars are like, that's what we got, the altars, so yeah, but thank you, Sarai.
Mhm.
All right, Teresa, and Jose, I'm gonna turn it back to you.
The thing is, like, it's a great safe way for us to really think about the Beloved, and Insistence, because we would like to show a video, but I just like, if you want to say some words about what it means, Beloved, for the audience, yeah, that would be really great before we start.
So it's interesting because people ask me, how did I come up with Beloved? And I can't really answer. I've just always have said it. And so when I started doing, I usually have an answer for things. It's like a circuitous answer, but I don't have one. When I started building altars 10 years ago, like I would go out on the track by myself or with one other person, and like all the stuff that's where I told y'all to do, I didn't do any of that. So don't do what I did. But I am a survivor. I didn't have outreach training, but I did have well over 40 hours of training. But I didn't have outreach training, and I had worked with one group, but they weren't really doing art. So I was like, I'm gonna do it myself. So I kind of did, don't do what I just did. Don't do what I did.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started doing altars on the corners. And because it was a way that I couldn't, I didn't want to get the girls in trouble with their exploiters. So I would build these altars, and as I was building them, I would just say, I love you, I see you, there's some candy in here, there's a little bit of this in there. And I built a lot of them with fabric. And I used fabric because I could go to I can get fabric easily and shift it and tear it up. And so I can make it into something really beautiful. The track is as I said before, is a high density area where people are sex trafficked. And Oakland is a hot spot for underage trafficking. So I would go onto the track, International, and on the corners, I'd build these altar things. And I'd also make signs, and I would say, "You are beloved, you are beautiful." I would say one of the two things, and I would sign in the queendom like it was a bunch of people, but it was just me. And I would put them all up and down the track. And that's basically how it started. And I did that for many years, and, you know, just kind of developed more ways of bringing more stuff out so I could be there a little bit longer with them and talking to them. And when the pandemic hit, I actually got a message from a community member who does work in the homeless encampments. And she said, "Do you know that this is going on?" And there was a huge spike. And I said, "No," because in my mind, I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just thinking that I wasn't thinking that there would be a spike. And so me and who I call Mama Amara Tabor Smith, who is an amazing artist, activist, dancer here in the Bay Area, we started going out, and we took a couple other people who were doing dance and doing art on the track, and what we saw just stunned us. And it wasn't so much, well, it was also the amount of young girls, but it was like they just were coming out in waves and waves. It just felt like the feel of it was just wild. And some people call them Johns, I call them rapists. The rapists were like, they were so animated. And, you know, I was just bothered in my soul. And so we did a couple of things in front of Eastside Arts Alliance at night called Love Loudly. And then I had a dream where I saw the track as a garden. And I woke up and I was like, oh, we have to turn the track into a garden. And so it was that simple. And so I'm a community builder. So I called everybody in and people came out. It was wild, you know, and I think it was the timing, you know, it's outside, we could socially distance. You know, it's a cross section of NGOs and like Dreamcatchers, Misty, Shade, Covenant House, and then I'm active in theater. So a lot of theater people came out. We had jazz band out just to kind of set the atmosphere. The Oakland Symphony sent a person out. Oakland Ballet came out. There were just all these organizations, but more so there were like people coming out with hearts to build like beauty, just to leave visual beauty for the beloved. And that was it. I was just like, we're gonna go, we're gonna build, and then we're gonna jet. That's what you do. Go, build, jet. That's it. That's all I ask the community to do. Go, build, jet. That's it. You know, and we also embedded the altars with PPE, with hand sanitizers, masks. We put the Shade hotline number on the back of the hand sanitizer. Sarai also had cards made with the Shade hotline number on it. All the organizations embedded the altars with their information and materials. And we also left COVID testing site information. So, but it was just like all just beauty, flowers. The community just brought, you know, beautiful trinkets, books, water, nourishment. Yeah. We brought nourishment and beauty. And so that's how Beloved happened.
Great. We don't hear you.
Let's watch the video.
Yeah.
Because we at Ohlone College on October 22nd, Regina curated an event just for us so we can participate. And it was amazing. I attended another one previous to that, and it was not something I expected. And once I did it, I knew I needed to do it again, you know? And so let's watch that video. And then Regina and the rest of you, all the other panelists, Amba, Benita, Sarai, I'd like you to maybe answer one question for me after that too, before we go back to Regina and have her share her art.
May our ancestors and the spirits continue to guide us. If we utilize our ashe, we can break these cycles. May there be no doubt, no fear, no more violence. Let there be instead light, blessing, healing, and joy.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I know we have other pictures too. I don't remember if we already showed it at the beginning, but I know that this is a really heavy topic. There's so much involved, but I guess I just want to clarify, and everybody please pitch in. Like, you know, when I said that you're all abolitionist, and you mentioned it before too, Regina, right? That you're an abolitionist. When I talk to people, they think of abolitionists as Harriet Tubman, who I quoted earlier, and you know, it's a thing of the past. So can you kind of clarify how you see yourself as an abolitionist along with the rest of the panel?
Sure. For me, you know, in my play, 52 Letters, I say a line, it says, different plantation, same evil brew, rape, oppression, family displacement, soul for economic gain, life legacy annihilated, torn asunder, terrorized. The spirit of massa has just morphed into the soul of a pimp who now utilizes a street corner, a brothel, a motel room, and the internet as a finely tuned for profit present day version of the old slave auction block. Yes, once upon a time is still here, is still here. And so those lines are there's some very deep similarities to past day, based on greed, based on money, based on trauma, based on terror, and so the fight is very similar in how to knock over and to destroy these roots. And I decided to do it with what is my strongest suit, which is my creativity and my artistry. So for other people, their abolitionist work might be defined as something else. But I feel like we're all like branches, or we're all like a leaf on the same tree, but we have different ways to met out our mission. And mine is just through artistry and creativity. That's my strongest arrow.
Benita, did you have something to say?
Not really, but what I will say is, abolition, I agree with 100% with what Regina just said. And that term abolitionist really began by non-people of color who were religious leaders. And they saw the problem from the outside looking in and wanted to do something about it. And I am a person of color who sees this problem, and I am a faith person as well, a person of faith as well. And I can't just go on like I'm blind, or that I don't see what's happening. I must do my part and do something in this fight. And as Regina said, where I lend my hand has been via education on this topic. Sarai told so beautifully about how important education is. And I second that notion. And Nola was my first teacher on this issue for a whole week on child sex trafficking. And then I received law enforcement training for a week, and then a couple of days, 2 or 3 days on labor trafficking. It is so important. And to know that as the times change, the issue changes, and you have to stay up to date on what is happening with the issue as well. So for me, that's what being an abolitionist is. Doing my part, how small that is, but not just standing by and allowing it to go unsaid, or to go without acknowledging that we have a problem and we all must participate in abolishing it.
Absolutely. I know that you have all talked about the importance of creativity and passion. And I know, Regina, you were talking about your way is through art, right? So I wanted to show another video that you did artistically to kind of talk about, these various issues. So how about if we watch that, and then maybe you can kind of explain it to us.
Which one is it?
Is it the redwood?
The forest.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's it.
My ancestor once said, you step on a thing and that thing bends. And that's the way your story ends.
She had forgotten the rise of the wisdom wind, how to stand upon its shoulders and place her crown inside of its soaring hurricanes of delight, how to sit at the feet of its gusty faith twirls, soak in the zephyrs of strength and love, and be cooled by solace-trim air strokes placed along a weary brow. She had forgotten the rise. But in remembrance, and once upon a faded moment, she awakened to the cry of the beckoning wind, beholding it with reverence, gratitude, giving thanks. Because somewhere in the quiet of her dance, the spoken silent breeze had called forth her joyful beauty, and she sang the essence of hope fulfilled. The rise of the wind, it had never forgotten the bequeathed magnificence of the beloved's eternity.
um, Regina, just like I need to breathe in it, like because it's so much. It's like it's so powerful to me, and yeah, like it brings so much. It triggers so much frequencies because it's when I see you work, it's multi-layer. I do feel that it's the spiritual, the theatrical, the physical, so like so many things involved in your work. When I see your work, there are two elements that I feel that are extremely relevant in your work. One is your poetry, your sense of, and I wanted to hit a little bit, like this segment of the passage, what you were thinking in terms of the meaning of the words in your poetry.
So in that, I wrote that piece called The Rise. And what I was thinking, like as a survivor, like how much is stripped from you. But a growth and the healing is a remembering. It's a remembering of all the things that you are, all the things that you're destined to be. And sometimes other things have to come along to help you to remember who you are. And so it's not that we've forgotten, it's not in a, just never, that information will never come back. It's just that you have to put it back together again. And you have guiders in your life to help you put it back together again. And so we did a series of those videos in the forest, and we did them with artists, and always mix everybody together, artists and survivor artists, and so nobody knows who's the survivor, who's the artist, who we just all would do these beautiful pieces together. And a lot of it surrounded costuming, colors, praying, and our feet on the ground. we would be in the forest, like just with, I don't think anybody had any shoes on in that one. There was something about the earth and connecting to the earth and being around the trees, but having to have the feet to feel the earth. And even the ones at the beach are the same way. I don't think any of my videos we have shoes on. There's always something about the feet hitting the earth. And so most of these are like, there's a lot that people didn't see that we just didn't film because there are healing things, healing times that we just kind of held each other and continue to do that. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
But that one was that one was very important to me for some reason. So that video clip was very special day.
Yeah, and you mentioned, but I wanted to see if you can, like share more about these ideas about fabric, because I have seen your work as I mean, you mentioned it, like these elements of fabric that they really bring you so much inspiration and
yes,
to do your work. And I wanted to ask you, like, how is the process? How you decide which elements for your costumes or for your visual art?
So I actually everything starts with color. That's the very first thing. Everything starts with color. Like when I costume plays, when I do my visual boards, everything, like I'll dream colors. Okay, so this is the color. So everything starts with color. I did, I don't know, can I share content on here? I don't know if I.
Yeah, try.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think I can. I just wanted to. Okay, so that was, so that was the last piece that I did, but you can see the color scheme in it. So, and I did this one I was asked by Amara Tabor Smith and Alan Sebastian Chang to create a costume for a house full of Black women, the last episode. And so I created this like hoop skirt, and these are all pieces of fabric and also paper. Most of the pieces are no more than 2 to 3 inches. And so this is all hand done. All of it's just all of it. I did that one in 3 days. So it was like 14-hour days of just like, no one talked to me, like, just cutting up and then putting it on one by one. And so I'm working on this piece now. I'm doing 10 plays on the track, and the program is called Infrastructure. And so what I'm going after is the infrastructure that has historically held up slavery and now is still holding up trafficking. So the piece I'm working on now is going after the retail industry. Wow. And so I'm doing a piece on indigo, because the indigo plantations were brutal. If you went to work on an indigo plantation, you probably would not even live 7 years. It would eat up your lungs because how they like, Black and brown people know how to do stuff properly, like with earthy things. But when you bring in money, all of that care goes away. Right? So all of the care just went away. So the stench of it, it literally ate up people's lungs. And it's such a beautiful color and it makes beautiful cloth. And the thing is, indigenous nations like all around the world have utilized indigo. And so I've called in materials from Japan through the Ainu people, who are indigenous Japanese, who they try to deny their existence. Also, Australia, the Aboriginals, they used indigo, which I didn't know, and I lived there for 15 years. But, I've called in a lot of indigo cloth from African nations, and then also indigo from the southern parts of the States. And so I'm telling the history of it through the skirts. I'm making hoop skirts. Like, I found out that the hoop skirts from the slave women, when they went to church, the men gathered, grapevines. And so I was able to get grapevines. And so this is what I'm making the hoops. I'm making the hoop skirts out of these, just like they did. But I've gathered like a lot of like beautiful pieces of, I'll show you a couple pieces. Unfortunately, I don't have the ones from the Anu people yet, but I'm putting all of that in because, so it's gonna be all, I'm cutting these all up. All of these pieces are gonna be cut up into like 2-inch pieces and place on the skirt. And then the back is going to, I'm taking the tear out of it and I'm putting in beauty. So the back is going to have a big bustle of beautiful flowers all the way down, but a huge, gigantic bustle. And also within the skirt is one of the things that slaves struggled with was lack of proper shoes. And so I've gotten all these tiny glass slippers that are like this big, and I'm putting them on the under part of the skirt. So I'm putting beauty, I'm trying to take the trauma out and put the beauty back in.
Wow.
And so I have like all these, I have a whole room full like of things that I'm making this skirt with. It's gonna be, so it's just the first one. So the play, and then I write a play around the skirt.
That's amazing. I had an opportunity to see that skirt, the outfit that you made in 3 days, which is amazing. And when you look at it closely, it doesn't even do justice on the screen, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
right? And it's amazing how you use your creativity. It seems like it's also healing, and you're telling stories, and I love that. And so I wanted to kind of see if the audience had maybe 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
Before we kind of wrap up. And then hopefully we can show another video of our beloved session that we had. Does anybody have any questions for Regina? And Regina, we want to see that skirt when you're done with this, and this the play and the indigo. We want to see it. I think everybody wants to see it.
Yes, I will. I'll definitely put up pictures in the play.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask? There's a question that came in, Regina. What is your writing process?
My writing process. I don't really actually think that I have a writing process, to be honest with you, because I do write every day. I say this because I will get an idea in my head. I'm like, this is what I'm going to write. Okay, I'm going to write this. And as I'm writing, that's not what comes out. Something completely different will come out. I finished writing a play. It took me 4 or 5 years to write this play. And it recently won semifinalist status in the Eugene O'Neill National Playwrights Conference. And when I started writing the play, I had like this whole idea of what it was going to be. And it didn't turn out anything like that. The only thing that it turned out to be that I thought it was going to be was a play that's woven. I wanted to do this play that's like really woven through time, and I was able to do that, but it didn't I think my process is to listen to spirit and to get quiet and to take myself out of it, take myself out of the way and let the message come through. And that requires being quiet. You know, so I spend a lot of time when I write like this. You know, like just listening. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I wanted to kind of wrap up, and I just wanted to see, you know, we've had so many things that we were discussed, and I know, would you mind showing us the skirt again? I know that it was
Okay.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dina, if you, it's amazing, everyone. Like the details is flawless, and it's paper and
Yeah.
things, and I mean, it's amazing. And so I guess wrapping up, I wanted to know of any of the panelists, like if there's one thing you want us to take away from today's event, what would that be? What's like one thing that you want us to remember? You want to start, Regina?
Yes. Okay, hold on. I gotta come out of this stop share. So I can you guys hear me? Am I
Yep.
okay? I don't know. Oh, okay. I always say the same thing when people ask me this question is to begin to see these children as our children. And I say it this way, what would you do if you knew a child was being trafficked? And then I ask this question, what would you do if your child was being trafficked? And the answers and the feel of the answers, those two questions are completely different. Yeah. And they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. They should have the same feel, but they don't. And so I ask for people to grapple with that. You know.
No, that's pretty powerful. That's a very powerful way to get us to think. Thank you for that. How about you, Benita?
I'm trying to come back on screen, but it won't let me.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. We already...
On the back of what Regina just said, that there should not be a differentiation in the answer to that question. Just like that, there should not be anyone who cannot think of a way to help a child or whomever the victim is of trafficking. And they can do that by partnering with an organization, which is what we would definitely say is best. You know, there's no going solo. It's not, this is not a one man or one woman show.
Nope.
Have to collaborate and work together. So I would say that everyone has something that they can do to help in this fight against trafficking. Mm-hmm. And everyone has something that they do every day that's a natural, innate thing that comes naturally to them. And they can use that to help in this fight against trafficking, would be my one thing.
Yeah, actually, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a slow process, you know, it's first awareness, mm-hmm. and then you do little things. And then like I was just telling Sarai, and I think I told you last time, like I'm ready to do the work now, but like it was just awareness first and then these little steps, you know what I mean?
Yep. And I think that the common denominator in all that before doing anything is the education. Mm-hmm. And with that education, if you have any type of soul whatsoever, that love for the community should kind of take over and begin to spill over and speak to you, and you'll find the thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Sarai, you have a lot to say, I know, but like, give it to us like in a minute.
Oh gosh. I guess what I want to say real quickly is to help anyone that has experienced trauma is about building transformational relationships, and not transactional relationships, right? It's about building trust, community building. And so those are really key factors in helping someone get past their trauma. But I want us to also keep in mind that empowerment is a baseline tool for leadership development. Survivor leadership is building empowerment. In everything that we do in the human trafficking movement, our end goal must be to activate survivors' ability to lead and influence.
Yeah.
But understand that survivors are the strongest advocates to promote change and develop organizations, programs that will assist in eradicating human trafficking. So we must empower leaders to create change.
Absolutely. It has to start from the top, right? And then Amba, are you still with us? I know you had to, she might have had to go, but
Yeah, she's gone.
yeah, but I appreciate everybody. And like I said, it's through this, my interaction with Regina and this NACA Jose, that I'm ready to do the work. So I'm going to reach out to you all. And maybe that's not where everybody is right now, you know, that's on this panel, but it could be, and maybe it's not specifically this work right now, but it could be some other work, right?
Yeah.
Right, and doing it in some way. So I appreciate it. I was hoping that we can wrap up with the video of
Yeah, we will do. Yeah, so we will wrap up with the video.
Yeah,
But
comments?
before we do that, just I wanted to really thank you from deep in my heart to all these amazing abolitionists, Sarai, Benita, and Amba. You are an inspiration. And you know, Regina, I mean, like Regina is more than my friend. Like she's becoming something else because of the work that we do together. Thank you so much, Regina. We appreciate that. But just to, I wanted to say, just to remind you that our next event also is going to be really great. It's going to be with an artist, Branty Vélez. Her work is, it's about, her work name is Lead to Life. And it is a eco-social art practice transforming weapons into ceremonial tools for community healing. It's going to be phenomenal. It's powerful what Branty is doing in our community, using gardening to really transform our community and heal our community. So please check it out. That is going to be November 19 at the same time, 3 to 5. So please be with us. And I think we wanted to thank our interpreters and sign language interpreters, Ebony, Kat. They always have done a lot of amazing, incredible work. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And also Debbie Kajiyama, my co-director, like she always is behind the scene, trying to help us to put everything together, dealing with technology. So Debbie, we love you and thank you so much. And thank you for Ohlone, thank you for Teresa. And we are going to end up with a little kind of a passage of the beloved and Insistence ritual that happened on last Thursday, the 22nd.
Yeah, we'll look for it. Okay, that did not do it justice, but like the band was amazing. The band was amazing both times I've been out there. And although like Regina has to rest her soul for a while, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's something that you plan on doing again, right, Regina, in the
Uh-huh.
future? And
Yes.
so maybe other people will be involved. That's kind of how I started with these, just going there and decorating this beautiful pole and being part of the community, right? So
Yep.
if you're interested, please let me know.
That's
And
one of the pictures.
can definitely put you on a list and contact you, right? In addition to that, just to wrap up, I just want to reiterate what Jose said and thank everybody. It's amazing to hear from all of you and the work that you do, the frontline work that's like hardcore work, right? And takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of love. And sometimes we don't know how to share that love, but you've all shown us how you do it. And I think that's pretty inspirational. Secondly, I want to let everybody know there's a survey that we put in chat just to kind of get some feedback on the event. So please feel free to fill that out. And finally, I just want to thank Ohlone College and everybody that attended, because I think this just brings one hint of awareness. And in a world right now where we're just kind of all chaotic, right? I feel like everybody here, we can do something just a little bit, right? To make a difference.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate it. And again, thank you for my college for letting me put on programs like this to showcase what's happening on the ground. I think that's really important. And like Benita and Sarai and Amba and Regina, even Jose and Debbie, what you're doing, like, you know, we need to showcase it in this form because it starts with education, right? Informing people. And so I appreciate your time and your energy. And shout out to Sharon Zingheim, who is my partner in crime. She is the VP of HR at Ohlone, and she is great support to help me put this on every year. So thank you very much. So folks, we are done. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you, everyone.
Done. If you have any questions, if you want to contact and help or know more, fill out the form and put your name on there and write on there that you want more information, and we will definitely make sure to get it out to everybody. All right?
Yeah. And also, Teresa, Sarai is like one of the best trainers in America. Y'all should have her come and train at Ohlone. Do trainings there. I'm just planting the seed. So
I am already ahead of you. I already texted her. I want to do it first, and then we're going to give it to everybody.
What I'm talking about. Okay. All right.
Thank you for the love.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.